Now go to the second round, the 5-minute round, and Mr. McLean will kick it off.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And Madame Exner-Poro, I'd really like to hear more about the comparability of the 45Q regime in the U.S. versus what we are proposing here in Canada, either enhanced oil recovery or not. Can you tell us that if the 45Q includes enhanced oil recovery in the United States?
I can tell you, this isn't my area of expertise. Energy security and global energy demand is an Indigenous resource development, but I can tell you that yes, it includes enhanced oil recovery, and I assume you know that there are very good environmental reasons in terms of land impact to do enhanced oil recovery.
Well, thank you. Can you elaborate further on the flow of funds for research and development and the technology jobs associated with that have migrated from Canada to the United States since 2018 when they came up with the 45Q regime to develop technologies to enhance the carbon capture technology they use now in the United States?
I wouldn't have the specifics. You probably have the specifics in front of you. But as you're very familiar, there has been an outflow of foreign direct investment out of Canada for oil and gas, for mining that we need for critical minerals, for everything because of our very long and arduous regulatory system. And we need all those things to make renewables also. So we need to reconsider all the things that we do to attract foreign direct investment here.
Okay. Are you familiar with the amount of funds, government and corporate funds that have invested in developing this technology over the last decade in Western Canada?
No, I'm not, but I'd love to hear it.
It is billions of dollars, as we've said, and it is both public funds from the Government of Canada, the Government of Alberta, the Government of Saskatchewan, and it does capture significant carbon. It is some of the best carbon capture technologies around the world. And we do represent a large portion of carbon capture sinks in the world in Canada as a result of commitment from both public sector and private sector organizations in Canada. So thank you for the opportunity to ask that. As far as economic viability goes of the sector, if we continue to give more economic benefit to a neighboring jurisdiction in the United States because they're giving better economic programs to make sure that producing companies can continue to provide an energy benefit to their citizens, while at the same time developing technology that captures carbon and provides other environmental benefits to the world, do you think those companies will migrate elsewhere? Sorry, that's a long-winded question.
No, well, we've already seen it. And I think that's the key of this question is that Canada doesn't operate in a bubble and the oil and gas industry doesn't operate in a bubble. And if we think it's a fantasy that we're not going to have carbon capture in 9 years, let me tell you about the fantasy of reducing global, demand for oil and gas in the next 9 years. So yes, are we better off? Do we believe that Canada has better ESG performance than Russia, than Iran, than Venezuela, and indeed the United States? I mean, and by objective measures, we do. And so the question is, do we want to have some control over how that gets produced and how it gets exported? Not only on the environmental side, which shouldn't be the government's only consideration, but obviously on the social and governance side, which we've seen become such an issue in the last 2 months. Okay. Then absolutely we should be encouraging investment in Canada.
And I have another question. I was over at the International Energy Agency meetings last week, and Australia made it very clear that in the last decade, OECD countries, the most developed countries in the world, have decreased their share of fossil fuels as a percentage of their energy mix from 79% to 77.9%. So a reduction of 1.1% of their energy production from fossil fuels over a decade. So as Australia would say in that point, it is time to actually look at how we decarbonize this sector as efficiently as possible and as quickly as possible, as opposed to continuing to tilt towards other unfeasible solutions at this point in time. Any comment there, Ms. Exner-Poro?
Absolutely. It's even worse than that because we're having an energy crisis right now. People have not had the natural gas, the LNG that they would have used instead. And actually coal production is reaching record highs ever in history. And emissions this year are reaching record highs. And so the unintended consequences of saying that LNG is not a perfect solution, so we can't use it at all, not only produce war, not only has fertilizer prices at the highest that they've been in history and creating, food insecurity and famine, but also created coal production to go up and emissions to go up and set us back in that respect by several years.
Thank you. Mr. Longfield.